Hey, hi guys, thanks for joining us if you're with us already. Just wait a moment until we've got the main man himself tonight, Tyson, who should be here any moment now. Okay. Okay. Tyson in right now, I hope. If my phone's telling me the truth, he's on his way. Hey, Tyson. It says I'm inviting you, but you don't appear to be here just yet. Hmm. I wonder what the problem is.
Here I am.
Hey, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, great. Are we all set up and ready to go?
Yep, pretty much.
Okay. Okay, great. Let's kick things off then. Thank you very much for watching. If you are guys, this is only the second episode of TDLive, and I am, I guess, the presenter, so to speak. My name's Rich, and we've got Tyson with us tonight, who is going to introduce himself in just a minute. Yeah, so sort of today's chat is mainly concerning sort of development goals that we might have. So what these goals might be, how they're going to adapt over a certain period of time, or maybe for some of us that work in schools or universities, they might be sort of specific to a certain type of year or something like that. Yeah, and how are they going to change depending on the context in which you're working. So with all of these live events, the great thing about them being live is so that hopefully people can get involved a little bit, okay? So if you've got a question for Tyson, preferably one that's somewhat related to teacher development goals, then it would be great if you could just type it into the comments box, and yeah, we'll sort of do what we can to address it. So yeah, without further ado, Tyson, can you introduce yourself to us all, please?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. After much ado of trying to log on and not be IHF with TDSIG and be myself and so on, it's nice to finally be here with everybody. So I'm Tyson Seaburn, if you haven't seen or met me before, and I'm currently the joint coordinator for the TDSIG, along with the fabulous Sinead Lafan, who was in the last Facebook Live, I believe. And aside from coordinating TDSIG stuff, I work at the University of Toronto, and I am an administrator on one hat. So I coordinate the EAP programs here. And then I also teach the critical reading and writing course of these programs as well. And then what else can I say about myself? I guess I've spoken at a few conferences here and there. I don't know. Everything else seems pretty good, but TD is my focus, so that's why I'm here.
Great. Can I ask, in total, how long have you been in the game, so to speak?
So if you count the 1 year I wasn't teaching, which is when I was in an ELT bookstore, then next January will be my 20th year, actually.
Okay.
So I started in Seoul, Korea, as an EFL teacher in 1998, and then I came back to Toronto in 2003. And I worked at some private language schools for about 5 years, and then I started at the university about 8 years ago.
Okay. Okay, great. So you've been at the uni for quite some time. Okay. So for you at a university, I guess I'm right in assuming that September meant the start of a new year, a new semester, and all that. So
Absolutely.
for you, is that a time when you kind of frame your goals for the year? Is that how you work?
Well, I would say that even though I start teaching in September, I do quite a bit of TD all year round. But you're right, it is sort of a natural time to start thinking about what you're going to do differently in the class and maybe how you're going to try to change things up a little bit compared to what you did last year. So yeah, September till April is probably a good time to make those goals, for me anyway.
Yeah. And do you feel like sort of with each passing year, does it get more difficult to sort of change things up, as you say? Because, you've been there for 8 years now.
That's a good question. I think all of us can really frame our TD in such a way that we don't get in a rut. So while I kind of do the same type of content year after year, I think with the team of teachers that I work with, we keep sort of changing the content, and we keep some things that are consistent, but other things we try a little bit more experimentally, and maybe just refining even things that we did before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, Sinead and Adam are here. Hello.
They must have a bunch of questions for you, I'm sure.
Yeah. How about you? What's your timeline look like in terms of academics?
So in terms of how long I've been in it altogether?
Sure. And well, I mean the same questions basically.
Yeah. So well, I mean, I work at a primary school in Hong Kong. So similar to you, sort of September is when everything's sort of kicking off again. I started out also just outside Seoul. Actually, I started out in Bucheon. That was in 2011. So I'm sort of 6 or so years into it.
Still a newbie.
Most of which has been in Hong Kong.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I think people who are watching, or at least who watch this video after this is over, they can relate to probably one or both of us anyway, because I've been in it for some time, and you're relatively new still.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with being relatively new. I guess I hope it makes me relatively young too, right?
Well, we're almost the same age, don't you think?
Sure. Okay, so I think like for me and a lot of the people around me, it's sometimes difficult to separate sort of our development from more formal qualifications. And maybe people that have been in it for maybe, say less than 6 or 7 years, it is okay, like maybe getting those first couple of qualifications under your belt.
Right.
But as time goes on, you're not going to continuously be doing qualifications for 20 years. So how do you ensure that you're, still really on point and always getting better without making it, here's another certificate?
Right. Well, the qualifications are good, and I think, even for myself, I got different qualifications at very different parts of my career. Like even my graduate degree, I didn't get until about 5 years ago. But aside from that, I think it's really about not staying in your own little bubble. I think it's about diversifying who it is that you talk to, and you take a look at what other people are doing in different contexts aside from just your own, in addition to people who are in your context, but also maybe in a different country and in a slightly different version. So, I mean, if you took a look at my situation, for example, in EAP, while I've been doing EAP for some time, there's like different circles and different spheres of people that you can learn from. So if I stay in my own classroom, of course, there's a bit of an action research element to the development that can occur. And so there you sort of look at what's going on in your classroom and you problematize it, and then you look for ways in which to change that. But aside from that, you can also take a look at your colleagues who are in your school itself, perhaps, you know, collaborating with them and seeing how they do the same content a little bit differently. But then beyond that, if you cycle out towards people worldwide, then you can look at, in my case, EAP that's going on in the UK, EAP that's going on in Asia, and see how it is that there are things that are the same or that are different, and what can I pull from those people. And then, you know, even still, you go beyond that to a larger scale of ELT professionals. Just like you and I, for example, we have very little in common in terms of the teaching context, both geographically, but also the demographic that we teach.
Yeah.
But here we are, you know, we're collaborating and we're working together. So I think, you know, just getting outside of your own little classroom bubble is the way to diversify what you do beyond just qualifications.
Yeah. And I would guess from your position in the special interest group that IATEFL and TDSIG has presumably been one of the key ways in which you've been able to sort of do that, especially on such an international scale.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and I started small, you know, like I didn't jump right into IATEFL. So I did my local teaching association, which was its own set of diverse circumstances because there were different sectors involved. And then once I did, you know, a fair amount of interaction with the teachers who are near Toronto, then I decided that IATEFL would be the next sort of logical progression. So I got more involved in IATEFL just as an attendee. And I knew quite a few people just from online and interaction. My social media is generally quite proficient. So I knew some people going into
Another way in which
IATEFL
we
already.
differ there.
Yeah. Well, you know, here's development for you. And
Sure.
so then when I joined IATEFL and I went to Manchester, was my first IATEFL conference as an attendee, and I spoke there, it really showed me how wide and how different teaching contexts can be, and how I can pick out things from, you know, even a teacher who's teaching in, you know, Africa. I can see, you know, how my context is not the same as theirs, but I can still pick out things that they do that might be relevant or helpful for my classroom. And then I joined TDSIG 3 years ago, and, you know, it's been a fun run ever since.
Yeah, cool. Aside from, I guess, the sort of the TDSIG being, in a sense, the obvious way in which you do that, because here we are using this platform. But are there any other things that you do, maybe sort of more independently, that you feel like are still really kind of constantly honing your skills?
I would totally say it's, you know, blogging. Blogging's been this consistent thing that I've done sort of on an individual scope. I mean, I'm blogging what I am doing and what I'm thinking about and so on. But it has opened me up to be able to connect with educators worldwide in a much more constant basis than just going to IATEFL once a year. So I think that, you know, not that everybody needs to blog or anything, but it is a reflective practice, blogging. And when you put your ideas out there, you're getting feedback and other people's ideas on top of it. So it's always a big learning experience for me, and that's why I continue to do it.
Okay. I mean, in terms of, I guess, to kind of come back to that word goals, when you blog, is it predominantly so that you can sort of get feedback via comments and things and learn? Do you sort of have numbers in mind where you're like, oh, I want this one to get X amount of views? Does that come into your head much?
Well, sort of as a hashtag nerd, you know, I would say that I want as many people to see my blog as possible, which is probably why I crossed the annoying barrier of, how far I share it and how many times I share things. But, it's not like I have an end goal in terms of how many people I want. My end goal is really to have ideas that I have or resources that I have shared with a bunch of different people and see what they have to say about it. And always when they comment on the blog or share it on Twitter or comment on Facebook, it's the goal for me is to get people to interact with me. So I guess that's sort of the goal that I had in mind, particularly this year, because I haven't blogged very much in the last few years because I've just been really busy. And this year I made a concerted effort to start blogging once a week and hopefully build an audience again and be able to interact with more people. So that's been a goal of mine this year.
That's great. I mean, that to me sounds ambitious. One a week.
Yeah.
And from the ones that I've had a little look at, you seem to be maintaining a pretty good quality. So good for you.
Cheers, mate.
Well, I had to say that, didn't I? But so I guess that kind of brings me to something that I was maybe going to ask about a piece that you recently wrote, which was regarding cross-disciplinary collaboration. I think it was with a guy who maybe teaches history at your university.
Yep.
Or did I make that up? No, I didn't. Good. Okay. Could you
female actually, but that's okay.
Okay. Could you maybe tell us a little bit about that and and sort of follow? I guess I'm wondering, like, cross collaboration sounds great, and I can really I can see, especially after reading it, how it can work in your context. Maybe some ideas for how it might work in other contexts.
Right. So I'm just going to share that post, the first one in there in the comments, just so everybody knows what we're talking about. But so basically in my program, there are EAP teachers, and then there's a content professor that's Dr. Alexandra Guerson. She teaches the history course that all of my students also take along with my course and a few others. And just in a brief summary of what that's about, we try to make our assignments somewhat similar so that when students do my assignment version first, it explicitly scaffolds the skills that they need to do in her assignments. And so in order to make that even more explicit, she and I have collaborated specifically by having meetings and talking about how to make our assignments refer to each other and how to make what I do in my lessons directly applicable. So I think that is the majority of where our sort of TD goal has been, is trying to tighten that up and trying to show other people how they can collaborate with different instructors. So in an EAP environment, you may think it's quite easy, actually, for an EAP instructor to reach out to a content professor and have a chat with them and sort of figure out what they need for the students to do well. But it's not always that easy. I'm afforded, the proximity with her and the type of friendship I have with her to be able to do so in a more, let's say, directed way than maybe some other contexts might. But if we pull it out of EAP, where you don't really have a content professor who you're collaborating with, I would suggest even being able to collaborate with instructors who also teach your students something, right? So when I was in a private school sector, I taught one course to some students, and then they went on to another class with another instructor. So for example, maybe I taught reading and writing, and then they went to a listening and speaking class afterwards, or they went to a grammar class, or what have you. I think a good transfer to this would be to not design your assignments solely in your class and in your little bubble, but to contact the people in the school that maybe share the same students as you, or maybe have guest speakers come in and collaborate with them as to what type of learning should occur and what kind of activities you can create, and really just bring yourself out of doing everything yourself, I think.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I think for me, I guess it's probably easier being at a primary school where kind of like the overall sort of school aims are everything is automatically supposed to be linked, and you're working in literally in closer proximity, and like there's probably more of a natural exchange of ideas, whereas maybe for you guys it takes a little bit more, like you say, you've really got to sort of seek that person out a bit more, I guess.
Well, I think that it's infrastructure is a barrier sometimes to this type of collaboration, because you may not have contact with someone who's teaching the same students as you or will teach the same students as you. But I think the people are out there. Like, we're all educators. We want the best for the students, and we want to be able to develop our own pedagogies and make sure that they're, correct and happening and doing the best benefit for the students. So I think it's just a matter of seeking those people out. And, just as an example, when Alex, the content professor, and I gave a talk about this collaboration at BALEAP last year, which is sort of an EAP version of IATEFL, I guess you could say.
Okay.
We watched another session by a content professor and an EAP tutor who independently sought each other out within their university. And they don't teach the same students, but what they did do is they tried to look at assignments that they could both give writing feedback on and see how they marked those assignments similarly or differently. And they really just talked about what type of feedback it is that they would give on these things. So I think that's another type of collaboration that you can do, even if you don't share classes with the same professor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, great. Thanks. That's really a nice detailed example of like how you're very recently been hitting those goals.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just a matter of now just keeping up with it, right? Like, even like if we swing back sort of to the whole, how do we keep up with these TD goals that we've set out? Like, one of mine was to keep up blogging weekly, and it's really discipline that takes precedence there. I just have to keep doing it and recognize that it's helpful for myself and it's helpful for other people. And then with Alex and I, we set a schedule, and we just decided, okay, we have to stick to this schedule. We have to figure out how to make our assignments tighter, and we're going to keep blogging together, because you might have noticed that while I blog on this collaboration, so does she. So it's a not only a cross collaboration in terms of what we do in the classroom and what we design, but now we're actually blogging together in a complementary way. Yeah.
And I guess from a sort of motivation standpoint, if there's somebody else relying on your input a little bit more, it gives you that extra sort of, oh, well, I don't want to let myself down, but now I really can't let that person down also. So I guess when you do want to be like creating stuff very regularly, that probably helps, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, just think about like your own students. If you had a group project with your students, and one student had to do something in order to, inform the group, it creates that accountability, right? So it's sort of the same action that's taking place between she and I. And, even with a team of teachers, if all of you talk, weekly or bi-weekly or something about what you're doing in your classroom, then there's that sort of built-in TD goal of, there's accountability, but there's also, you have to bring something to the table every time and try to learn something from each other. So, it is motivating for sure.
Yeah, great. Okay, right. Well, I would say that that's been interesting. Have you got anything to add, or is that a good time to wrap it up for you?
Well, we're probably at around that time where people are getting tired of watching us. I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? And if they do, they could post them in the question box.
Yeah. I see that Phil's commented that he was in Korea also.
Well, look at all of us.
I think it's a starting point for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think to really summarize in some way, I think it's really easy to burn out as a teacher. And I think in order to avoid burning out, you need to set goals for yourself, and you need to figure out things that you're going to do differently so that you don't just stay in the same rut over and over and over. And one of those ways is collaboration with other people, and other things is just doing individual things yourself. And as long as you make a goal and then you try to work towards it, even if it's a short-term goal, like I'm going to try this new thing tomorrow in my class, and then you follow through and you actually try it and don't get scared. Or if it's a long-term goal, like a project that you want to answer a question to over the term, you know, then that's something you just need to stick to, and remember that you have follow-through goals to hit. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's great. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for your time, Tyson. Thank you for those of you that are watching, either now or later.
Yes.
If you're watching this on a delay and you've got any questions later on, hopefully Tyson will be kind enough to maybe check back and try and still help you out with a bit of an answer. But yeah, thank you very much.
I absolutely will. You too, Rich. I mean, you have tons to offer too. Don't sell yourself short.
Oh, Phil's. This is the case of this. Let me see.
I mean, Phil, your idea of you talking about going to be self-employed, you know, that's totally a development issue. You know, if you go from one context to something that's much more tenuous, I mean, I would assume being self-employed is somewhat tenuous, then you know, you have to build a whole new skill set probably involved with, you know, even making invoices and you know, scheduling your time in such a way that isn't predetermined. You know, all those things are TD goals themselves in a sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess connections become so much more important, of course, when you're self-employed. You don't just have a given coworker from whom you can hopefully pick things up. It's got to be those people that you reach out to. And when you reach out, I guess in a sense, you've really got to make sure that you're offering them something as well, whether in terms of TD or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, and just I mean, just like you're saying, Phil, like beyond that, you know, we as teachers often have a hard time promoting ourselves as well. And I think blogging is also a way to market yourself. You know, it's a way to create your own brand, which I think a lot of us do through writing and consistent writing, and you sort of build an audience. And that's hard. You know, it's hard to share stuff. And I guess that maybe, Phil, you could probably talk a lot more extensively about how you've learned to market yourself or promote yourself as a brand and so on.
Yeah. I guess time as well. It must just take a while, hadn't it? Just building up those sort of bank of positive reviews and things like that.
I mean, Sinead's a good person to talk to about this too, because she does a lot of individual projects with different people in different places. I mean, she was just in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't envy her. That's really hard.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you, Phil. Thank you, Chris, for the positive comment at the end there as well. Much appreciated.
Cheers, mates.
Phil, if you want to carry this chat on a little bit on the comments, Phil, then I will be sticking around for a while. But yeah, generally, thanks a lot to those of you who joined us, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for suffering through me.
Okay. Cheers, Tyson. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.